Getting ready for the Echelon Race League as we get ready to kick off the weekend of real roads racing here at the Echelon Racing League, riding on some of RGT's real roads, which are basically mimicking real life courses that, these riders are hoping to tackle someday in the future. My name is Brad Soner. I am joined by RGT's own James Vickers, who's going to be with us all day today and all through the weekend, taking us through some of the racing. James, first off, welcome. It's got to be exciting seeing so many people on RGT today.
Thank you. Welcome to everybody. If it's your first time seeing RGT, we're absolutely stoked. The event looks great. The guys at Project Echelon have done an amazing job with our team this side, and we are really excited to see where it goes from here.
Let's talk about some of the format of racing here on RGT and for the Echelon Racing League. Real quickly, give us the quick rundown of how RGT works and what sort of the difference of this platform is.
Yeah, I mean, we get asked this all the time, like why should we, or what's the difference, or what makes it better, what makes it different. Our CEO is just completely obsessed with the realism factor and producing something that simulates real-world bike racing. And we'll see this evening with the attacks going out of corners, the simulated braking into corners, a more realistic, or at least in our opinion, a much more realistic drafting than you expect from other platforms. The test race was won with both test races, both men and women's test races, were run with breakaway groups going up the road, and it's something that you don't see very often in the virtual world, but you do see a lot in the real world. And we're really pleased to see how they're all coming together. Well, all the races come together and finish in, not just in a flat out sprint.
Well, in addition to new technology, new formats also emerging here in the virtual world of racing, we're moving to an omnium scoring format for the Echelon Racing League series, as you'll see in the competition format here. Riders racing on points each day, and then they'll take those points to race for the overall. Those are added up throughout the series. So even if a rider misses a day of racing or misses one of the stages, they'll still be able to be competitive in the overall because those points are scoring the overall. Now, teams will start with, they have a large roster. They could have started up to 12 riders in the roster at the start of the year, but they're only going to be able to race 6 per race. So, James, does it help to have teammates here? I mean, is it advantageous to have teammates?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely 100%. If you've got guys in the move, they've gone up the road, then for sure, if you've got you don't have to do any work. You don't have to spend any time on the front. There's no chasing for you. You just watch the move go away. If you don't have guys up the road, then obviously that's a big part to play as well, because that means you need to be sat on the front. You need to be pulling. You need to be trying to bridge that gap, or you need to be trying to get somebody up the road to get in that break to give someone the opportunity to go with the move. So definitely bigger teams will be used on a flat course. We expect it's likely to finish in a sprint unless we've got some serious time trial effort going out for the second half. And if it does go in a sprint, then it's possible that we'll see a dark horse sprinter, 1 or 2 men just crack on.
Yeah, it's tough to tell in these races. It seems like they're either won by a dominant solo breakaway that seems to be able to get away and stay away early on, or there's kind of, I don't want to call it negative racing, but the riders watching one another, and then that prevents a breakaway, makes it tough to get away. So I want to go back and take a look real quickly again at the format of the racing here, as we are just about 5 minutes away from racing. We talked about the makeup of the league, the makeup of the scoring, and the makeup of the riders here. So let's start with the league format here. I just saw that pop up. Not sure where it went. There you go. So, James, here, it's based on real courses. We talked about that. Tell me about the weight verification, the power weight verification that goes on here.
So the guys at Project Echelon have run so that's the race organisers, that's the event organisers. They've organised how people are verifying their weights. It's something that as a platform we're empowering organisers to control themselves, but we'll support them where we can. So with regards to the weight verification, we have we will share where required the weights of the athletes. And then, the guys at Project Echelon will look at the weigh-in process that they provided. I believe there's a video weigh-in, and there's a required to provide secondary sources of power and so on, to ensure that actually this is as fair as it could possibly be. And there's no, there's complete transparency within this race format. It's really good. It's really, really good.
So they weigh in ahead of each stage. You can see all of the races in the Echelon Racing League here as we move to some real-life races in the U.S., like Tour of the Gila, the Armed Forces Cycling Classic. Then we're going to the Gateway Cup. The Redlands Bicycle Classic gets underway in late January. Then it's the virtual Joe Martin Stage Race, followed by the virtual Green Mountain Stage Race, and then we wrap up the Echelon Racing League with the virtual Tour of America's Dairyland from March 11th through 14th. So a cool opportunity to race some real-life courses, some real-life races, and race with real-life folks together. Today, racing in Borrego Springs, California. This is a course that is based on basically a criterium course. It's a pretty flat, four-corner, fast criterium, but relatively long, James. How do you guys pick these courses? How does a Borrego Springs criterium course come to be?
So Borrego Springs was picked in the early days, when the product was in its infancy. The selection process from that was, I think we would have liked to have hosted an endurance challenge on those roads. So these are the roads where the World Time Trial Endurance Championships are held. So 6, 12 and 24-hour records have been set here. That's what I think the guys were looking to do. I wasn't with the business at the time. That's what the guys were looking to do. But more recently, it's we're going to the community to understand what they're looking for in an event, in a race, in a road, and picking it based on that. So yeah, we're having some real fun actually. We've got some new roads coming soon. They've been picked in a completely different way. They've been picked, for the way that they ride, not their location. And yes, I'm looking forward to seeing those come out. But they're not picked in the same way as Borrego was picked.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing the virtual courses that you guys will be designing for these real-life races that we're visiting later. Now, the way that this works is that the race directors are able to basically submit their elevation profile, their GPX profile for their courses, and then you guys are able to create that into a course which then is fed back into the riders, what are smart trainers. They're riding on trainers that are connected to the internet, and so they feel that real-time resistance, and basically everybody's racing on the same course at the same time. So it's a really cool chance to kind of experience a climb without having to, travel to wherever that climb is. I know we're going to be doing the Stelvio Pass later this weekend. A whole lot easier to do it on RGT.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm really looking forward to seeing those Magic Road events as well. Anywhere in the world, you can recreate anywhere in the world. If you've got a GPX file, if you can build it on Strava or Commute or any of those products, then you can ride it on RGT. And it's not just the guys at Project Echelon, it's anybody that can do that. A little shameless sales pitch in there. But yeah, that's definitely something that you can do.
All right, well, we are inside 2 minutes to our first race start here. We're starting with the women tonight. Not expecting this one to be very long. This one should come in under an hour as we start to see the riders warming up here. Here's Christy Tracy, who had a great ride last week, or 2 weeks ago, I should say, in our test event. We had a little preseason test event just a couple weeks ago where riders got a chance to test out the RGT platform, and it really came down to a two-up battle on the front for the women with Christy Tracy and Mallory McCrosty going to the line. Now, this was a situation where the two were able to get away pretty quickly. There were a few riders that tried to stay with them, but it was just a story of selections where it went from 10 to 15, then down to 3 here with Grobler in that group of 3. Eventually, they dropped her, and Tracy and McCrosty went to the line. So, going to be a little bit of a rematch tonight. Looking forward to watching Christy Tracy. She ended up second place by, watch this sprint to the line. Not much. It was a lot of back and forth in the last 100 meters to the line, but McCrosty with a late surge did take it in the test event. So Christy Tracy going to be out looking for maybe a little bit of revenge out there tonight. Well, things certainly going to be much different than the test event as sorry about that, James. We got to live action ride just getting underway as we're off and racing at the Echelon Racing League.
Yeah, the riders look great. I'm really chuffed to see all the pro kits in the game and see how everyone's going. I'm looking at a couple off the back already, so hopefully they get off okay.
Yeah, late starters. Maybe they were in the virtual Porta-John. I think we've all been there before at the start of a race. James, the other thing I noticed, all these riders have their custom Yeah, their custom kits on here this week. Each team is getting their custom jersey in with the Echelon Racing League so they can represent their team on the virtual roads. Is that right?
Yeah, mostly. Yeah. So we're pretty quick to get jerseys in the app. We don't need to do what you would call a build to get them up. So we can have a kit live within a day. I see the Velocity Vixen kit there, the USA cycling kit there. I think that's Evo Q, is it? How do you pronounce that? Evoc, I think. On the front right now for Grobler, is it? So yeah, all of these kits are what they would ride in, and the Project Echelon kit and Canyon Esports kit just coming through there as well.
It certainly makes it easier to pick the riders out. We had a few teams that had some similar colors, but this is a pretty diverse field in terms of kit color. Makes it easy on the commentators here. So this is going to be an interesting one because it's really tough to get away on a flat course, isn't it, James? In terms of virtual racing and real life racing, this is maybe one of the hardest places to get away. It's a lot easier on a climb.
Yeah, sure. We will see, hopefully, we will see athletes practiced, and they'll understand the physics and the braking into the corners. So hopefully we'll see some big attacks coming out of the corners. And if you're not paying attention, there's every chance that you can get gapped. And with a peloton moving at 40k we're doing now. So I don't know what that is in old money for you guys, but probably chipping on at 50 miles an hour on this flat course in a big group. I would expect, if you're off the back, that's it. You're off the back. It's going to be very difficult to bridge back on. So out of the corners, they need to just watch those attacks.
Yeah, we just saw Christy Tracy chasing back on. A rare occurrence to see Tracy off the back in a group like this, but she put in a massive effort to get back up there. So certainly worrisome if you're burning matches like that this early on here.
Yeah, definitely. It's a great softening up tactic for the bigger teams. If they can just send a rider up the road on each corner. So we see this in community races with some of the community teams. Send a rider up the road on each corner and give it a bit of a crack, full stick, and string it out a bit. Put everyone in the pain cave, make them suffer. It's quite an effective tactic. Like you say, if you need to burn a big match to get back on, you can't keep doing that all race. You need to really pay attention.
Christy Tracy, one of the riders to watch in our pre-race analysis. We talked about Grobler earlier, one of the last riders remaining with Tracy and McCrosty in that women's pre-season test event. So those are three of the big names that I'm going to be watching here, although Godby looking very strong on the front here, setting tempo for the group. Here's Christy Tracy finally coming to the front. This is, I think, where she's more comfortable. Some riders like to be at the front. Some riders like to sit in. I think Christy Tracy likes to be aggressive and likes to create that draft for everyone else.
I will say, like from my experience on the platform, particularly on flat courses, it is nicer to be within the mix at the front. It feels like a much safer place to be. Like I say, if you do get pinged on the corners, then it's really hard work to get back in. So just staying up around the front, like you would in the real world. If you're one of the favourites, you'd expect to see them in and around the front and just taking care to cover any moves and stay with any moves that go away. So yeah, it is the same names on the front so far, seemingly some of the same names on the front so far, with Gobi hitting the front again now. Christy Tracy just on the peripheral again, I think, moving up as well.
Yeah, this is a scenario where it's better to just stay in the orange zone of your effort than have to go to the red zone, getting dropped out of a corner, having to do that effort to get back on. That's pretty much your worst case scenario in a virtual or real life crit. Anyone who's ever raced a crit in real life, you just don't want to get dropped in the corners. That's usually the worst place for it to happen. And same thing applies here in virtual racing. So here it is. You can see the separation happening right here. You can really tell which riders have figured it out and which riders haven't yet, James.
Yeah, definitely. Like you could see on that corner, a little gap forms. Someone hits hard, like now. Godby just giving it a crack. 4.4 watts, 4.5 watts per kilo, consistent. Coming out the bend, I think there was a bit of it went a bit harder as well, and it soon strings it out. It does make a difference, as you'd expect, and you have to be careful there is definitely the benefit from easing off through the corners and, you know, taking it steady. But at the same time, you can't risk being dropped. Just looking in the distance there, Brad, there are a couple of riders being distanced, and that is that war of attrition that generally is associated with flat, quick, short crit courses. Yeah, it's interesting to see it play out like this.
Yeah, and the other danger here is you get caught off the back with no help. You're sort of stranded, nobody you can work with. A lot of times you can try and find 2 or 3 riders to try and link up with, work together to get back in, but that's going to be a whole lot tougher out here because they're dropping in 1s and 2s. Tracy back to the back here, just drifting back a little bit. We saw the power zones earlier. This is sort of a new addition to RGT, James, where we're showing the power zones that each rider is riding in. There's a colored bar below their name and a little name tag above them. And then they also have the colored bar to the left of their name on the leaderboard. And then you see our key there to show the different zones of power. Explain that, if you would.
Yeah, of course. So this is based on the rider's functional threshold power, which is the maximum effort you can sustain for 1 hour. That's how your FTP, functional threshold power, is defined. And then within that, we've used Coggan's traditional training with power zones. So recovery, endurance, tempo, threshold, VO2 max, capacity, and then beyond capacity is anaerobic, pain, hurt. You don't stay in that zone very long. So the colours correspond to what zone the rider's sat in. So if you look at Higginbotham now, you can see just coming up into VO2 max, just outside, with Tracy now just coming as she moved up, was pushing quite hard. She was at capacity. She was, you know, pushing to move up through the field. But under their names, you can see that colour, and it shows you how hard that rider is working. And it's also to the left of the rider cassette, what we call the rider cassette, which is the name list on the left-hand side. If you see to the left-hand side of their names, you can see that power bar continually changing. It's only as good as the information that the riders put in, but we assume specific power values for riders, and eventually this will become something that we update automatically. So it's impossible for you to cheat that number, if you like. It's quite difficult now. I'm not going to explain why because I don't want to give it away, but essentially it's not as straightforward as cheating it now. But you can see, it helps. It's a visual aid. You know, you don't see the riders sweating. You can't look them in the eye. You can't get a feel for how hard they're working. And with this, it gives you some kind of idea. If you've got a target, you can select their name tag. You can watch them work. And you can follow them. You can match them power for power as you would in the real world. You know, they drop a gear, you drop a gear, and you go with that wheel.
Yeah, this is another step, I think, towards a more realistic real-world racing experience. The ability to read the other rider, I think, is huge, especially in a breakaway when you get into a group. So if you see that the rider that you're with is spending a lot of time in the orange and red zone, then obviously you know they're not going to have a whole lot left when it comes down to the end of the race. So I think this is a really interesting addition. Obviously, a huge addition for us spectators. Can the riders also see the color of their competitors, James?
Absolutely, yeah. That's part of the point to it. So you're able to understand how your competitors are racing. Just picking up on something here, Brad, looking at the difference in position to these two riders. I think it's Tracy on the left, right down on the drop.
So this is Christy Tracy on the left side of the screen and Krista Doble-Hickok on the right-hand side of the screen.
Sure, it's really interesting to see Christy right down, and Krista stood up now, she's out of the saddle, but Christy's on the drops looking much more like she's in a time trial position, perhaps well suited to that, and more comfortable riding in that position, which is not something you tend to see riding indoors. So it's pretty cool, that.
Yeah, long sustained power is what Christy Tracy is really good at. Sort of like a triathlete or a time trial specialist, a good long distance power rider. So she likes to get down in that time trial position and just sit there and crank out the watts. But you saw Krista Doble-Hickok there out of the saddle several times. I think a lot of riders ride that way. They kind of respond to the riding, and you'll see them out of the saddle a lot because there is so much back and forth in a situation like this. Godby back on the front here, spending a lot of time at the pointy end of this race today.
Yeah, it's interesting you picked that up. I've been making some notes for riders that are animating the race, just getting an idea of who's being combative, and definitely seeing a lot of Tracy going to be at the front. Again, going to be coming through, pushing hard as we come around through our first lap. Spent a lot of time on the front.
Well, as we always say, it's not how you start, it's how you finish. So I'm interested to see if there will be a selection here at some point today. It seems like eventually there's going to be sort of a go or no-go point in this race where we'll see a group of like maybe 10 or less riders able to get away. And it might be from an attack like this, a couple riders flying up through the field here.
Yeah, I would very much like to see if with a breakaway. I think that would be quite nice. In fact, dirt rider, I can't remember the athlete's name. I'm just looking now. I think they took the position from the ride to qualify. Maybe it wasn't dirt, maybe it was 3R, the rider that just went hard up the road. Yeah, so that was Esther Walker, I think. No, I don't know who it was. Anyway, moving on. The rider that attacked hard up the road, that was interesting to see. I would love to see it. I'd love to see a break go. And the peloton controlling the move as it went, but it's fast right now. It's furious. It's hard. Seeing anyone get away at this point would be phenomenal.
Well, watching the riders on their trainers on their home cameras here, you can tell when the riders get out of the saddle too, and we watch it kind of respond on the game here. So they all kind of surge at the same time. It's sort of the ebb and flow of racing here. It's really interesting to be able to watch these riders riding at home here with some live cameras. There's Godby back on the front. Man, just can't get enough. Yeah,
certainly. It looks like the group has reduced down a little bit as well now, Brad. It looks like we're down to perhaps 2/3 of the original number of athletes that started. Yeah, looks like there is a bit of attrition happening.
I see Esther Boville on the back, another strong rider from last week. Here's Godby in the right-hand side of your screen here, getting a look at her training cave, the Pain Cave. Another one of my favorite parts of e-racing, James, we got to see everybody's basement for the first time this year in 2020. I don't know that I would have ever seen so many basements and garages in my life if it weren't for e-racing, so thank you for that.
I think it's great. I absolutely love it. Some people have proper specialist pain caves. Some people have what I would call a pain cave, which is a cave, which is like, a garage with brick walls. And in the UK right now, it's 4 degrees in my garage. So yeah, I would say it's interesting to see how people spend, their time curating these areas that they spend a lot of time in, particularly with COVID and lockdown and the need to train still. Northern Hemisphere, cold, dark nights, like you spend a lot of time in there, and some people just see it as functional, and some people like to, make it look nice and spend some time developing it. So yeah, I agree. I think it's brilliant. I love to see what people do.
Yeah, and especially when we get to the courses like the Paterberg, you'll get an authentic experience if you're in the authentic pain cave. So I think a dark, musty garage or basement would be the perfect pain cave for a day on the Paterberg on RGT.
Yeah, I don't think you're wrong. That's a leg breaker. I think it's 6 or 7 times up that, and it's not just the Paterberg. There's another shorter climb in there, which I think it just gets underestimated by the athletes if they've not ridden it or raced it before. It's a bit of an insider for any of the DSs, but there's 2 climbs on the Paterberg, and these days a lot of the moves go away on the second climb. I think the race is still won on the Paterberg, but some of the moves go away on the second climb, which is interesting. It's
sort of the launching pad before you get there.
Yes, it's before the first, obviously. It's a second climb, it's not the big climb, but it is the first climb on the road, because the Paterberg punctuates the finish line. But it's definitely a softening up and an area where those that have used the platform know that that's where some of the moves go. We hold community races on there 3 or 4 times a week. They're actually some of the best attended. It's a long, straight American.
All right, we'll go ahead and call
road,
this.
Brad.
Yeah. I was going to say, this is the selection pretty much right here. You can see a good, I would say, half-mile behind these riders, and there's nobody in sight. So this is it. This is the group of 15 right here that's going to go to the line together.
I would say so. I would say out of sight, out of mind now as well. It'd be interesting to see the time gaps back to the chasing groups. If there is a chasing group, it might be just sporadic riders distanced in no man's land, which would be a horrible place for them to be. But yeah, that's it. I think you're right. This is a selection. We'll expect the winner to come from this, and it might even reduce down even further.
Yeah, I have a feeling at this point we are measuring in minutes rather than seconds back to the chasers. Chris Doble-Hickok with a nice surge up on the front there as she tries to take a little look.
Yeah, it was a big acceleration. I see Christy Tracy, I think, following there into the red zone as well. That was a big acceleration. There was a notable increase in speed across the group there. Everybody needed to pick up and chase back onto that, or at least that's by appearances anyway.
Interesting to see everybody in sort of the green and yellow zone here. A little attack going up the right side of the group. That might be an Evoc bike kit. Chris Doble-Hickok's going to chase after.
You're right, it was an Evoc insured kit, that one, as they just dropped back through the peloton. Definitely. Yeah, it was, yeah. So what can you tell me, Brad, about Borrego being a non-native to America? I know that it's the location of the World Time Trial Championships, but it's an area that I've never been to in the States myself. It looks pretty barren.
It's kind of similar to Palm Springs. That would probably be the biggest close comparison that I think most people would have been through. Sort of a cool, artsy, middle of nowhere town. They have a very strong art scene. In fact, later in the show, we're going to look at some sculptures that they have along some of the courses. The Borrego Springs Art Institute is also there as well. So I would say sort of an eclectic, artsy desert community. I don't know if that's a good descriptor, but that's how I'm calling it.
Okay, if you're calling it that, I'm putting it on the to-do list. It looks pretty good, and when all this mess with COVID's over, I think maybe one day I'll spend some time to age group the World Time Trial Championships. Who knows?
This would be full meta if we went backwards, where we're now recreating real life courses from the RGT courses that we got to try. But that's the world we live in here in 2020, and that's the life that we're living. So I like it.
Yeah, I'll certainly have some fun with that. That'd be great. Maybe we can do the reverse of putting rider names on the roads and put the RGT name on the road. I don't know. There's something in that, I'm sure.
There you go. All right, little action up on the front of the group here. Chris Doble-Hickok, Christy Tracy. Here's Tina Grobler making her way up to the front here as well. Look how the colors are starting to change now. Remember earlier it was all blues and greens. Now we're seeing a lot more yellows, oranges, even some reds starting to pop up as they start to get into it here with 25K of racing to go, 25 kilometers remaining here.
Yeah, it's looking pretty tough at the minute. I think after that, as we were speaking a moment ago, after that last corner, the pace, or when we commented that there was an attack off the front, the pace doesn't seem to have really let up. I mean, it's easy for me to say it's not let up since that corner. I'm sure it's been hard from the start, but it seemed to be a notable increase around. I think it was around the 11 kilometer mark when it shifted up a gear. Yeah, and we've had this selection, Brad, for what? How long now do you think it's just been this sort of top 15 since probably 8 kilometers, maybe?
Yeah, they made this selection pretty quickly, and they didn't take a whole lot of time to cause that selection, let's say that. So it became pretty clear early on, and I don't know that anyone's looking super weak in here either. I'm really not seeing a whole lot of waffling or wavering from any specific riders in this group. So they all seem like they're in okay condition.
Yeah, be great to be a fly on the wall, I think, in some of these pain caves, because unfortunately at the moment the RGT avatars don't do anything with that data. So you see the red and the green. We don't do anything with it long term, so you don't get an understanding for how long they've been in the red or the green, and for what it feels like. I mean, looking at that, there's some pretty hot and yeah, looking rather fatigued people out there already at this stage in the race. 15 kilometers in, and still a fair old way to go. So yeah, looking hard.
Yeah, just looking in some of the pain caves here, this might be a better indicator of where the riders are on the pain threshold than the FTP color indicators here. You can see some riders certainly starting to feel it here on the Zoom calls.
Yeah, absolutely. It's nearly 11:30 at night here, so I'm looking at that thinking I can't think of anything worse. Yeah, I think I don't know if there are any UK athletes in the event. Oh yes, there are. Yeah, I don't know if they're based in the UK. Tracy Grobler, I'm not sure. But I'm feeling that at this time of night that would be not particularly healthy, and I'm sure the old caffeine gels may have made an appearance. So if anyone is racing, Western Europe, Eastern Europe, they aren't going to be sleeping very much this evening.
Which I would say is probably another authentic experience, at least here in the United States. We always have our pro races at the end of the day in the criterium. So, yeah, you hit a couple caffeine gels, maybe have a 7 or 8 p.m. start time, and it is not unheard of to be wired on caffeine gels after a tough race at 10 or 11 o'clock at night here in the U.S. So another authentic racing experience, as anyone who's ever raced the criterium circuit here in the U.S. knows.
Yeah, definitely. That's it's part and parcel with it. And even if you're not partial to a caffeine gel, the energy exertion, the increase in your metabolic speeds, all of those physiological changes that exercises promotes, wakes you up and does great stuff to your body. But it's not great for sleeping straight afterwards. That's for sure. After some road races personally, it's like, you finish at 4 o'clock in the afternoon and you're still wired at 11 o'clock in the evening. That's without caffeine, because I can't have it.
Yeah, this was actually a point of contention in the early season managers meeting as the league was coming together, was when the races would be held. They actually ended up with a staggered starting time each day so that everyone around the world sort of has an opportunity to race at all the different times of the day. So we're late at night tonight, but tomorrow a little earlier in the morning so that everyone has a chance to race in sort of every different time zone.
Yeah, I think that's a really shrewd move. It says to the DSs and the athletes, everybody involved internationally, that the organisers are listening. It's not about, just because it's an American-based organisers, it's not about getting Americans East Coast or one or the other in the position to race in the most suitable time zone for them. I think that's a really it's the right thing to do, I think, by all the athletes.
Yeah, and of course, we also have to keep in mind that most of these athletes are living a life outside of their professional RGT racing careers. We're not quite to the point yet where we're paying these riders enough for a living wage in virtual racing. So most of these riders are looking at a day job or something to occupy their time during the day, and then they come and race when they can in their free time.
Yeah, hopefully with the sale.
Another cool part about racing here.
Sorry, Brad.
Sorry about that. Cool part of racing here at the Echelon Racing League, they have merchandise for all of the teams at wearenations.com. They're going to be producing T-shirts and then some customized esports gear throughout the season. So check out wearenations.com for official Echelon Racing League gear and get some swag for your favorite team. Let us know who you support.
Big attack, big move, trying to get up the road from Christy Tracy and a couple of other guys. Then that was close actually. I think that's the closest we've had to having a move go away as opposed to riders drop off the back. That looked pretty fierce actually. More animation on the front from Christy Tracy. Super combative today, but that was a big move. That looked like a big effort. And we certainly had a small gap. Be interesting to see if anyone counters. Looking like somebody is.
Yep.
Russell moving away now, 8.3 watts per kilo. It's a course for a big tester if you can get it. 20-meter gap now, Brad.
Yeah, they're starting to test each other here, and now you're getting into the territory where riders are looking at this and saying, hey, 20 kilometers to the line, I can do a good 20K effort here. That's right up my alley. So a time trialist, a triathlete would say, this is my sweet spot right here at 20K. So you're going to start seeing a lot more attacks, I think, where solo riders start to feel good and think that they may have a shot to go the distance with a long-range attack here. This is getting into a good part of the race now.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really good to see. It's really good to see riders attacking and trying to get that move away. It makes for a much more interesting event to watch when there is more emphasis from the riders themselves trying to make the race. As again, Grobler on the front, pushing hard. Like these are big numbers. These are big numbers. 4.4, 4.5 watts per kilo.
And then you see Grobler taking the opportunity any chance she can get to try to get some rest, to try to get that back into the green zone, try and put zeros on your power meter, because every little bit matters, every little bit helps. And here we go, another one from Godby going up the left side.
Yeah, it's out of that corner again, and it's these moves where if you're not careful and you don't cover it and you end up off the back. I mean, it looks like the group managed to stay with that there. Or most of them. It'd be nice to see a shot looking back, but those moves, if you're not careful coming out of those corners and someone goes big like that, it's game over. Full stick, and there's still no getting back on. Got to be still on the front, still pushing hard. So it just
Godby loves attacking out of the corners here.
Sorry, Brad, I think there's a slight bit of delay, and I keep talking over you. I'm not doing it on purpose, I promise.
I'm doing it on purpose. I'm trying to talk over you, so that's my bad. No.
Yeah.
Well, there are three of your strongest riders in the group here. You see Godby there on the right-hand side of the screen. Chris Doble-Hickok, another rider who we haven't talked about a whole lot today, but we will. She is going to be in the conversation at the end of this race today. I don't think there's any question in my mind that we see Chris Doble-Hickok at least in the top 5 at the end of the day today. So I'm definitely keeping my eye on the orange rally jersey of Chris Doble-Hickok there in the top left corner of your screen.
Okay, Brad, are we ready to do predictions already?
I think I just kicked it off, so why not? I'll go ahead and take Chris Doble-Hickok for the win today if you've got a prediction.
I'm not ready for this. I'm going to go for Tracy, I think.
Yeah, I think that's probably the safe second pick here.
Well, yours is obviously the safe first pick, right?
I had the advantage of getting to choose first, so there's a certain advantage there. But I think you're right. I think Chris Doble-Hickok, Christy Tracy have really proven that they've been the aggressors tonight, and then Godby is the other one that I think has really shown that she's looking like she's riding on a different level tonight.
Yeah, I hope we've not given it the kiss of death and we don't ruin their races for them. But yeah, those three riders have been in the conversation from pretty much the beginning, up the front, pushing hard, looking good, looking strong. So we're just about to...
Now, James, is there... sorry, we did it again, jumping on each other. Is there a disadvantage to sitting on the front for these riders? I mean, I assume they're burning more energy than the other riders, but how are riders like Godby and Tracy able to sit on the front so often?
There's a lot of ebb and flow within the races themselves, and I think because Grobler, Godby, Tracy, they are the rider names that we're currently seeing the most of, because that's what the names are currently above those avatars and not changing. But there is a lot of ebb and flow. It's the attacks, I think, that we're seeing from those guys more than them being on the front more. So, if you watch Godby right now, probably fall back through and then we'll see Tracy come up. But the no-named riders, when I say no-named, I mean the riders that we don't see the names for, they're on the front almost as much, I think. But it's the big attacks that we're seeing from those guys that are impressive. And that's where the hurt comes. And that's, if you look at your metaphorical brick, and every time you go above threshold, or you attack, you take a chunk off that metaphorical brick, and you end up with a smaller brick at the end to throw out the window when the sprint comes along. So they're definitely going to be hurting from these attacks. Just I hope they're not doing too much, and they've still got the legs at the end to either a late attack, maybe 2-3 kilometers out, or the actual sprint.
Yeah, there's sort of a washing machine effect in the field. The riders at the front go to the back. The riders at the back go to the front. You're kind of constantly in rotation, this surging when you feel like you're starting to lose it, and then you get back up there, and then you take the gas off, and then the riders at the back are doing the same thing that you were just doing. So there's a lot of ebb and flow in the racing here. Sometimes it's tough to stay in the group. It's tough to try and do a steady effort when that's changing so much. James, another question we get a lot about virtual racing and RGT is the steering. Sometimes we see the riders spread out across the road. Sometimes we see the riders bunched together, but that's just the computer placing the riders. There's no steering involved in the racing. Is that correct?
Not right now. There's no steering involved with the racing on RGT cycling, no. And there is no logic to the selection that enables you to kind of cheat the system and always get the inside line up the corner, or always pick an outside line for a sprint. So there's no way to do any of those things. It's the next logical step for us, is to improve our physics. I think we've got a great physics product already. I think it's brilliant. I don't think personally anything compares. The braking in the corners makes a big difference for the racing. The braking for collision avoidance means that you need to position for some climbs, some slower climbs as well. I think it does make a difference, but we're not done with that by a long shot. We've got a lot more work to do on it, and I think we'd like to do steering, and we'd also like to do something that reduces the ebb and flow of these bigger groups, because in reality the ebb and flow doesn't exist because you've got brakes, right? So as you're coming, if you want to sit in, you sit in because you brake and it stops you coming around the other riders. But such is the benefit of the draft at 40-50 kilometers an hour on a flat road like Borrego, you can't help that ebb and flow, because you push hard to come up and you sit in the draft and you ease off, but you don't brake. So you just keep moving up through the group, and this is the ebb and flow that we see it on all of the platforms. We've got some improvements to make on that, there's no doubt, but we still stand by it being a good, realistic draft. We're really happy with how it works. But I think we've got some stuff coming, and we'll do a good job. Big attack up the right hand side from someone from USA Cycling. Not sure who that was.
It looks like they're in the USA Cycling National kit. Couple other riders going to try to cover it. Here comes Grabler. Here comes Tracy. Here comes Godby. No surprise here with any of these names. And I think it was Keller getting away off the front. The Canadian having a go at it. Looks like they've reeled her back in. And James, a lot of times, though, the winning move is not the attack. It's the counter-attack. It's the move off of an attack. Where one rider goes away, they come back, and then someone else attacks there. So that's what I'm looking for tonight.
Yeah, we saw that earlier on. I can't remember who went, but somebody attacked, and then very, very quickly soon after that, there was a follow-up attack, and that was the one where we nearly got that gap. I think it was about 15k into the ride or something like that. I'm just looking at the distance remaining now, 14k, 24 kilometers ridden at 35 minutes. So it's looking like about 10-15 minutes left of racing, Brad. So I mean, that's, as you said earlier, we're getting into that optimum time for somebody to go full stick, get that gap, big attack to get the gap, and then sit at threshold and just see if they can stay away.
Yeah, I'm surprised we haven't seen Christy Tracy get away yet, because I think she probably knows that she has the legs, especially after a confidence-boosting preseason ride where she was able to pretty much single-handedly ride away from the group. She had two other riders with her, with McCrosty and Grobler, but I'm surprised we haven't seen them try to cause a split yet. I guess just a little too early. 13.6K to go. Still a lot of time, a lot of racing, and I guess these riders know it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the group has, this selection has been with us since 8 kilometers. It's looking like, unless we get that attack that goes away, the winner's going to come from this group for sure. There's no getting back for anybody now.
Ebb and flow continuing. I think you can also see some riders that are maybe a little more nervous than the other riders about falling off the back or about losing their position in the group and thus losing the draft. So you see a lot of riders that kind of surge to the front, maybe a little faster than they need to, still getting a feel for how quickly the game responds, how quickly the power makes it into the pedals on their virtual avatar, and just getting a feel of RGT.
Yeah, there's no doubt we've got we spoke about our physics earlier. There's definitely a learning curve associated with it, and for some of these guys that are committed to racing schedules on other platforms, this will be an absolute baptism of fire. We will have had dropped riders that are undoubtedly can make the finish just because they're not used to the drafting and the physics algorithm. We actually hosted the esports world championship qualifier for the US, so that's been hosted on Zwift, the actual world championships, but we hosted the USA cycling qualifiers. So the selection for the USA team was made on RGT cycling, and we saw some rage quits from guys that were dropped early on. We were worried about that. We were concerned that there were some issues, so we checked their power files, and I've got to be honest, they sat at threshold, and some of the riders around them that stayed in the group didn't. They raced it like they'd raced another platform, and the riders that didn't get dropped, they put in some cases it was almost a watt per kilo less average power to the point that rider got dropped, because they just know how to ride the platform. They're used to it, and they're aware of how it goes. Look at this, another attack from Christy Tracy. 7 watts per kilo now. Real going to 7.6 watts per kilo. Big move. This could be decisive if they can get away. That's coming back still.
Yep. Look how many riders are going into the red here. They are really getting into it. And when a rider like Christy Tracy attacks, everybody responds to that one. There's no question that you want to go with Christy Tracy. There's probably a few riders in here that they could go either way. You're not sure if you should follow them into a move, but if someone like Christy Tracy, Krista Doble-Hickok goes away, then you have got to go with them. You've got to make that move, because there's a very good chance that that's going to be the winning move of the day. So they put a lot of riders on notice. Here goes another USA Cycling national kit up the right side. That's Godby again, just cannot get enough of the front of this bike race.
Yeah, I think if we're giving out combative awards, Tracy and Godby have been super instrumental in animating the race. It's been great to see them, full sticks, just coming from the back, attack from the back, coming straight through, boom, getting a small gap, which is a shame that it's just not going that little bit further. Getting beyond sort of 20 and 30 meters, and the peloton sits up slightly and lets them go. But yeah, it's interesting.
You see how focused Godby is here, barely taking her eyes off the screen.
The focus is definitely needed, particularly at this point. If you get pinged and you've still got the legs because you make a mistake on a corner with 11K to go, I think you'd be disappointed. Let's see what happens here, Brad. Just coming out of this next corner.
Yeah, every corner that I see, I'm waiting for the move. I'm waiting for the split, because I'm almost sure it's going to happen in a corner or off of a corner here, the way that things have been going. So a little longer course than we're used to in most American criteriums here in the Borrego Springs course. We see a lot of circuits that are somewhere between 1 kilometer and 1 mile. This one a little longer, so there are some long straights and a slight false flat, just a little bit of an uphill on the long sections of this course, but barely enough to notice it, but it is there.
Yeah, we're just on the descent now, and you do definitely see a difference in speed on this back straight. I think this is the back straight where the descent is. The home straight is as a slight ascent, so it goes up, and it is a little bit draggy. There is a bit of a false flat, and you definitely feel it in the legs when you're racing on here. I'm sure the guys when they've ridden, 30, 40 kilometers at race pace, that false flat actually feels like a mountain, but yeah, there's just enough, I think, just to make it feel a little bit different up each long straight. It's a very unusual course for a crit. In comparison to 8 Bar or Paterberg or something like that, where the corners play an even bigger part in the technical racing element of as they would in the real world. Play a bigger part in the technical element of riding on the platform.
What about wind on the course? Is there any factor of wind? Does it change throughout the day?
I will say not yet, and I will leave it with a mystical not yet. But right now, these riders aren't affected by wind.
Okay.
I think just thinking about
they are
the time
affected
to
by
attack.
Godby, that's for sure.
They're sitting in the wind, that's for sure. I was just thinking about the time to attack, and the home straight and the back straight. They are the shorter. Sorry, they are the longer straights. So the corner at each end of those is perhaps not the best place to go. Perhaps the best place to go is the corner between the two short straights, because you get a longer road after that. So you're going to have to slow down for the corner. Sure. If you go on the home or back straights, whereas if you go on the short straights, maybe it's a little bit easier to just get your head down, find your rhythm, and just keep popping away and maintain a gap if you can actually create one.
Yeah, if you can tack 2 of those corners together back to back with a couple big attacks out of them, that would certainly be a good way to distance yourself out of the group. All right, 9 kilometers to go here on the front. This group of what is about 10 riders holding steady. We've seen a few attacks with riders trying to get away, but still no major gaps. I don't think we've seen anything go any more than maybe 5 seconds, James.
No, I think the biggest attack, I think, was 20 meters. It's not very far at all, really, not in the grand scheme of things. Very, very little in terms of riders being actually able to get that bigger gap and get away up the road. So yeah, it's I guess it's to be expected on a flat testy course like this. It's not exactly grippy. The riders are just able to get on the rivet, find that rhythm, and just keep plugging away. Not enough corners to split it up massively. Not enough climbs to make a difference for watts per kilo. So you can just find your rhythm in the group and just sit on. But yeah, nothing greater than 20 meters that we saw earlier on at about 15 kilometers. I think that was that big move. And that was coming out of the corner. I think it was a counter attack, wasn't it, when that happened?
Well, that's just going to make the finish all the more interesting. We'll have plenty of riders with a full tank as we hit the line here in what is coming up on 8K, just under 9 kilometers. Last time we checked in with them, and Godby still sitting on the front. I'm going to buy a Godby t-shirt from We Are Nations, because the way that she's been riding tonight, she deserves some respect here. I wonder if I can get her name on the back of a shirt. Yeah,
I'll get a Christie t-shirt then, because that's my pick for the winner.
There you go.
This is interesting. Look at that. There's just a gap there. That was a shame we cut away from that. There was a rider just getting gap through those back corners. It'd be really interesting to see if they get back on as we come on to the final lap. It was just splitting up. Look, just a couple of riders. That's going to be painful now. That's going to be absolutely painful to try and move back up to this group. They don't seem to be hitting it so hard on the front as they have been. Seems to have calmed down a little bit, so maybe there's a possibility for that rider to get back. I couldn't see who it was.
Yeah, this is it. This is exactly what they were waiting for. I think pretty much everyone had the same plan. I'm going to wait until the last lap and then start attacking. And now pretty much everyone in this group of what is now less than 10, I think they lost a couple riders out there. So the attacks flying as they went through the line, but then they calmed down again, and then we hit the corner.
Yeah, I think that rider was going to bridge. I'm not sure who it was, but I think they're going to bridge in Godby again. Little move as everyone's numbers light up bright red as they chase her down.
Wow. That's amazing how quickly you see the colors change when a rider puts an effort on the front. All of a sudden there's this cascade of red, and then same thing when they get caught. Everyone goes back to green immediately because they all want to get off the pedals ASAP.
Yeah, it's definitely the kind of thing you're looking for, isn't it? It's seeing all those lights change colour. At that moment, you know everyone's pushing hard. You know what they're attacking. There's some traffic up the road, Brad. We're lapping riders now. A big group like this obviously has the firepower to pick up seven kilometres on lapped riders. It's pretty interesting to see that as well. I think I saw.
There's no virtual
anyway.
pulling in RGT. Normally in the U.S. we pull the riders off the course when you get dropped out of the group, but everyone gets to stay in RGT. I like it.
Yeah, they absolutely do, and that is a lap rider. Likely to get just pressed straight through there. Look, that's incredible by Godby, actually pulling through, no doubt at all. So I'm going to make a prediction.
This, once you're done, you're done.
Yeah, definitely. I'm going to make a prediction that at about 3 kilometres, we're going to see a move go up the road and actually get a gap. That's going to be my prediction. Don't know who's going to be in it, but I think 3 kilometres, if you've done your homework, would probably be about the right place to attack. And then we'll see maybe 3 or 4 riders get away, and then it'll be that reduced bunch sprint from there. Maybe that's my prediction. Though 3 kilometres, big attack.
That's tough to argue with. I'll take the over on 3K. I'll say it comes somewhere between now and 3K. So they got 3K to attack as they just went under 6 kilometers to go. I'm thinking a longer range attack for someone like Christopher Hickok, maybe able to get away here. Although 3 kilometers is a long ask. That is a big ask for a solo rider, or even a couple riders, real life or virtual.
Yeah, I think the groups just thinning out just that little bit more. Every corner's another rider gone here, another rider gone there, which is really interesting because the less firepower in that group to make that bridge. 6, 9. Yeah, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the group is still as big. Looking at that now, I thought last time we checked it looked a bit thinner. So yeah, perhaps you're right, Brad. Maybe between now and 3K, but 3K is a long way. Yeah, I thought the group was a bit smaller than this.
Yeah, it looked like we had lost some riders when they came through to start the last lap, but that might have been lapped riders that they were working through, the riders that we saw just dangling off the back. But still together for the most part, and Christy Tracy and Christopher Hickok, all things considered, looking pretty fresh here. Yeah,
I was just thinking that myself. A little bit too composed for my liking. That's serious, that. Like... Looking good and ready to go with 4 or 5 kilometres left, I think was it you said, Brad? We'll see when we come back to the graphic. 5 kilometres left, so looking good.
Of course, the cameras give the added element maybe of having to poker face a little bit because all of the riders are on a Zoom call. I guess in theory they could see each other on the Zoom and try to get a read on how riders are feeling. I don't know if anybody's tapped into that strategy yet for virtual racing here, but it's certainly fun watching for us to be able to watch them and kind of watch the effort match up from real life onto the screen. You see the red, and then we can see the cameras of the riders putting in that red effort.
I would say the DSs will be watching the stream, checking the athletes out when we go to those pain cave shots, and also looking at the other athletes as they move around the group. And I'm pretty sure the athletes will have news in their ear about what's going on around them and how they're looking.
Yeah, so I'm calling this 12 riders in this group. Just got a good look and a good count on the group as they came through there. So down to a dozen riders sitting on the front with a lot of the same names that we've been seeing. Now, the other names that I'm watching, or I guess the names that we should talk about, are the names that we haven't talked about tonight. Those may be the real threats out there, the riders whose names we haven't called at all because they've been sitting in the group, saving their energy, biding their time. It might be a new name in the next 3 kilometers here.
Yeah, that's probably what's going to happen, isn't it? After our predictions, it will be somebody that's kept their nose clean, that's not seen the wind at all, just ridden the race properly, proper tactically, sat in the wheels, and is now feeling pretty strong, pretty good, and ready to go. You might be right there, Brad.
I can tell you as a commentator, I've been burned on that many, many times. So I've learned to hedge my bets. You got to put your little hedge in before and say, well, you never know. Could be a rider off the back.
Yeah.
That's bike racing, though.
That's why we all love bike racing, right? It's the unknown. It makes it so interesting.
Couple attacks here, a little effort up the left side. Stephanie Sidlick making her way up to the front. First time we've seen her checking in here on the front of the field. So now we are starting to see those names that were pretty quiet early on. They saved their energy, and now they're using it. Some interesting tactics here from the quiet riders.
Yeah, I'm watching then all the numbers went red. You know, coming out of that corner, they must all still be feeling it, even if they've not been on the front in the wind. It's just a long time. Many, you know, all of those corners above threshold, those efforts to get back to the group, if you just get distanced a little bit, they will all be feeling it, I think, even if they have ridden tactically and they've been sat in the wheels and, you know, they've done their best to stay out of the wind. I still feel like the riders we've been calling all day, I still feel like they're going to be those to animate the event at the end, animate the race at the end. It's all going to be on the time, and I think now my prediction for an attack before 3K is gone, and it's all going to be when you decide to fire up your sprint as to what's going to call that winner.
Grobler going, Bonasasi starting things, but look how quickly she gets pushed to the back here for the Velocity Vixens team. Meanwhile, Chafin, Keller, Grabler, all familiar names. Look at the riders dropping off the back here. A couple riders getting gapped off the back of the group. So this will be a big effort. Watch for the red numbers to come into view here as they surge to get back in.
Yeah, it's just I think that's over. I don't know who that was that got gapped, but just parking up now. I don't think any effort's going to bridge back onto this group, particularly at this point in the race. This is all in full stick, and if you're unfortunate enough just to lose the wheel there, it's going to be super hard to bridge over. Super hard. I may have been proven wrong while we cut away from the race. Everybody watching and waiting here. Yeah.
As they go under 2 kilometers to go here, more separation at both the front and the back. We saw a couple riders go off. One rider got popped. One rider fought back on. And now we're starting to see some riders going into the red zone. O'Mara making her way to the front here for the first time.
It's starting to string out a bit now, Brad, as well. There's more distance between the athletes as the event gets, as the speed increases, as more riders attack on the front. Technical course as well, technical finish with the corners. There's a set of corners, 200 meters from the finish line. There will be 2 races, maybe a race to the first set of corners and then the sprint finish itself. It does make the sprint interesting on Borrego, as opposed to it just being a full gas effort down like a drag strip effort. There is a technical element to it, so it'll be interesting to see how the athletes approach that.
Still trying to get separation and still struggling to get any sort of organization or split whatsoever off the front here so far as they go inside the final kilometer of racing. You see now down to 900 meters. This one's going to come down to a good old-fashioned drag race here, James.
Yeah, it looks like a bunch sprint from a reduced bunch, nevertheless, but a bunch sprint we're going to see. We're just inside probably 500 meters now, but there is a corner before the line, so 200 meters down the road you're going to see a left turn, a slight right, and then another left. And once that's done, the road will open up. Tracy going hard now, trying to get a gap as we come down to this corner.
And this is what everyone was afraid of. Christy Tracy going solo at 500 meters out now. Luckily, they're able to stay on the wheel. They responded to it. So Tracy not able to get the space that she was looking for. You see Bonasasi moving up now. The Canadian making her way up to the front. Here comes O'Mara, another quiet rider all day, but now putting in a big late effort here as they go inside 250 meters to go. Tracy still sitting on the front. Look at it. It's the same 5 names sitting on the front here. Watch for the late surge, though. It's not how you start, it's how you finish. Here goes Tracy again. Keller trying to come up late. Can Tracy hold on to the line? Oh, it's going to be a photo finish. I think that was, well, I think it was Krista Doble-Hickok going with her to the line, but I'm not sure who got it there.
What a finish. I think Godby. I think it was Godby. I think Tracy took 4th. What happened between those two, I'm not too sure, and there's some unusual footage coming from the stream now. Yeah, Krista Doble-Hickok 2nd, I think. Tracy 4th, Real 3rd. Incredible effort from Tracy. Absolutely incredible, but Godby all day long. Amazing.
Godby by far gets the most aggressive award of the day, and depending on where she ended up there, that's going to be a pretty impressive ride.
Absolutely, absolutely. Very. We're just waiting for the graphic now, but some really good racing there. I really enjoyed watching that and commentating on it. Absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing.
Yeah, I really don't see a lot of these that stay together all the way to the line like that. Part of it is because of the criterium format of the course, but I think part of it also just the incredible talent in the field here. As you see some of our men getting ready on the line, they are just a few minutes away from their start time. They stack them pretty tight here in the Echelon Racing League, but it looks like Godby did get it. I think we're getting confirmation now, but I'm thinking Godby, then Doble-Hickok, then Real, and Christy Tracy going to have to settle for 4th with Bonasasi in 5th in that women's race.
Yeah, that's what I've got as well. Shame for Tracy. I didn't think they were gonna roll her on the line. Started the sprint from before that first bend, got a gap, got caught, got a gap, got caught, and then again. But Godby, all credit, an amazing win. To this first event.
All right, as the riders cool down and, well, I'll say recover, but the recovery is just starting because they continue racing this weekend, racing again tomorrow, and then again on Sunday to wrap up the Real Road stage racing here with the Echelon Racing League. So we're going to let the men get underway. Then we'll try and grab a word with our women's winners here because the men's scheduled for a 7:10 Eastern Standard Time start. That is just a couple minutes away from right now. So men getting into the pen right now, and if this one is anything like what the women's race was, we're gonna have another good one out here in virtual Borrego Springs.
I'm just watching the changeover in the Godby household was slick and practiced. The women's event slightly longer than expected, I think there. So they needed to jump off and on very quickly. So just to recap, Brad, I think the women's race selection was made at about 8 kilometers. There was a big surge at 11K, 15K with some small gaps being formed, but nothing sticking. More of attrition really, with a few riders going between 15 and 40 kilometers, which was the race distance. And yeah, with a Godby, I can't remember the second place rider now. Doble-Hickok.
Krista Doble-Hickok.
Tracy. Thank you. Yeah, Krista Doble-Hickok, and then Real and Tracy in 4th. Very enjoyable. Really enjoyed that.
I'll let you know.
We see our men getting ready for their cameras and the interview, because we're going to chat with Godby here in just a bit as they wrap up and get ready for the men's race. Let's switch over and talk a little bit about the men's race coming up here, James. Doing the same distance here in the Echelon Racing League for both the men and women, so we can expect this one to go under an hour, and expecting it to be similar to the women's race. Are you thinking we see another group staying together the entire time in the men's race?
I mean, it's Borrego, and traditionally, you know, we do see breaks go on this course. We do see groups get away. You get 2 or 3 big testers in there. It can happen. We do see it happen. Having said that, all of these guys, they're all super strong. They're all super fit athletes. They're all riding on this series for a reason. So to say it's not going to happen would be wrong, but I think, judging by the women's race, how that played out, it's slightly different to the community events. Big powerhouses, all of them, banging through, looking good. So maybe it stays together, and maybe we see another reduced bunch sprint finish.
Yeah, honestly, I'm excited to see because I think if it doesn't happen in the first 20 minutes, there's probably a good chance that this one stays together for the entire race. So the first part of this race could be a big tell to see how the men's race is going to go. As I do want to correct myself from earlier, they have a 7:20 local start time here at 7:20 Eastern, so we're now inside 9 minutes to our men's start here. But yeah, expecting some fireworks, that's for sure. It's very clear that e-racing, virtual racing, is really starting to come into its own, isn't it? They're starting to get the vibe. They're starting to understand the tactics of racing, and we're really starting to see good racing unfolding on these virtual platforms.
I've got to be honest, I'm loving it. There's not much racing content for me to consume. I'm a massive cyclocross fan. But a lot of the events are cancelled, the crowds aren't there, commentary feels a bit lacking sometimes these days. I'm loving it. I think it gives me something to watch, something to get excited about, something to enjoy at a time when sporting events don't have the freedom to happen in the way they traditionally do. I think it was coming anyway, and I think, you know, there's brands out there that have done an incredible job of producing esports, and we're very grateful to be part of this new movement that's happening. We're absolutely loving it. It's good to see the teams and how they're approaching it. It's good to see the athletes and how they're approaching it. You know, the organisers. It's all coming together now. It's a different thing. This year has changed everything. You've got the likes of Echelon working with the event organisers across the board, not just one. You know, 6 different event organisers bringing all these real-world events in. It's really good, really exciting. It's really promising for the future of a new genre of the sport, because we have to face it's a new genre to the sport. It's like track or cyclocross or road racing or time trial. It's not its own thing, and it never will be, but it's absolutely fantastic to see where it is heading right now.
Yeah, I think that was what we had to get over when this whole COVID thing started, was where does this fit into our world of cycling? What part of cycling does this fill? And I think the prevailing answer has been it brings all cyclists together. We have time trialists, we have road riders, we have triathletes, we have people that I've never heard of, and I thought I knew a lot about bike racing until I started seeing some of these riders on the virtual platform. So if nothing else, I think it's brought a lot of riders together that would have never raced together before.
I tell you one thing, Brad, if you'd have told me 24 months ago that we'd have professional triathletes and professional road racers in the same events, I would have been extremely skeptical. I'm sure it's the same in the US as it is in the UK, but you know, a bike race is never preceded by a run or preceded by a swim or vice versa. So it's you're right. It's bringing everybody together. It's game changing, to use our favorite term at the moment, and it's really compelling to see it happen. That event, you know, the women's races that just went through there. I could watch events like that all day long. I could get excited about it.
Would you say you could stay up past midnight to watch racing?
I would say it's 12:15 here right now, so yeah, I can stay up past midnight.
All right. Luckily, these riders stayed up past midnight as well to race with us. We're going to take a short break here. When we come back, more racing from the Echelon Racing League in Borrego Springs.
Hello.
All right, welcome back. A look at some of the classic art in Borrego Springs. You see the sculptures all over the city of Borrego Springs. Part of the, we'll call it arts district or art scene out there in Borrego. They are called the Metal Sky art sculptures. And unfortunately, we won't see those in our virtual world here because we are just about 3 minutes away from our men's race getting underway. A little bit larger field here for the men, but see a lot of the same names up there at the front, including our test event winner, Jaden Yeager, up there at the front. James, this is a situation where everybody in this field is looking at one guy, Jaden Yeager. You talked about the qualifiers earlier for the Esports World Championships. Yeager qualified there in second place, so he's going to be representing the United States at the World Championships. And he's got a big old target on his back here for the Echelon Racing League.
Yeah, definitely. Another pick, I think, is probably Lionel Vujasin, is it? Or Vujasin for Canyon Esports. Is that the guy that's just done the Canadian hour record? I think if any course is going to suit anybody, it's going to be someone like Lionel. He's with the Canyon Esports team. So there's probably, well, I mean, there's lots of guys in this field. Philip Dignan, there's some big guys, big powerhouses that are going to have a lot to say about a flat course like this.
All right, you see the countdown as they go inside. 1 minute to race start.
Should we go for earlier predictions today for this event, Brad?
Yeah, why not? Let's go from an hour out. Let's see if we can pick our riders here.
You had the luxury of the second pick last time, so I'm going to go. I mean, we've talked about him already. I'm going to go for Lionel.
And I think I got to take Jaden Yeager, just based on past results. I've watched him race a lot in real life, so I think I have to take Yeager here.
Good stuff. Well, that's our picks.
All right, let's get to it. Underway and racing as the men take off for the Echelon Racing League Borrego Springs course. And looks like a few guys getting an early look off the front. No surprise to see Jaden Yeager here, but remember, it's a long race. A few riders flying up the left side. It's Oliver Dowd, the Canadian, getting the party started here.
It's an unusual start. That's interesting to see so many riders distance so early on. Hopefully they can bridge over as the race settles down after this first corner, which they're just coming to now. But that's unusual to see such a big attack out of the gate on RGT with such a big gap. Maybe some habits joining the platform from other platforms. That was a big start.
Yeah, we saw a lot of riders falling off the back there in the first couple minutes.
Oh, first couple of seconds. We're a minute in, so hopefully Jaden Yeager wasn't one of them.
First couple seconds.
Yeah, it was very big start, some big numbers. I guess these guys were sat in the pen at 10 watts per kilo. So as soon as the flag was lifted, it's like a catapult. There's a small move right now, sea revel, 6 watts per kilo, 7 watts per kilo. It's a little bit early for that sort of shenanigans. I think right now it's unlikely anyone's going to get away this early on with so many riders.
Yeah, certainly not the time to attack yet, unless you get a super group of riders that are able to go. Then would be a chance if you saw someone like Neil Ostenfeld here from the Evoc Bike team, Jaden Yeager on the right-hand side of your screen. If you get a group of like 3, 4, 5 riders together that can go away together like that, that's where you're really you're looking at a move that you might want to go with early. But if you don't have that magic combination of riders, probably a little early to find yourself off the front here.
Sure, yeah, absolutely. So hopefully we can get a graphic from our producers to see if there is a chasing group behind, to get an idea of if the race did settle down enough for everybody to get back on. I'd be really interested to see what's happened there, Brad.
Yeah, we'll see if we can get a look at it.
There's 2 riders up the road now. There's a gap going. Bridge is made. I'm just trying to make sense of all this. This is super animated. We've got a small group up the road. We've got a peloton chasing down on them, and then we've got a split off the back. So a lot of stuff happening very early on. We are 3 kilometers in this race already, and we've seen it super animated, super animated. There's another attack on the front from Mike Swart, 7.5 watts per kilo, going super hard, trying to get a gap. It's all feels a little bit in vain with such big group chasing, Brad, but nevertheless, it makes for a super interesting race.
Yeah, the other fun part here is the ability to compare yourself to the other riders. You were talking about some of the watts per kilo numbers, looking at their watts per kilo number. If you've ever done any training or you have a power meter or you've ever ridden virtually, you kind of know what those numbers mean and where those numbers are. So kind of a cool chance to watch what these other riders do and then test yourself against those numbers. Now, James, give me a brief rundown of the watts per kilo, just what that calculates, what it means, and how we use that as sort of a standardization of the power that the riders are putting out.
So watts per kilo is, I guess, as you said, it's a standardization. It's a widely recognized cycling metric that defines how many watts that you're able to produce, and a watts is a measure of power. So how many watts you're able to produce as a per kilo of body weight. So if I weigh 100 kilos and I can, and that's per, so that's that's in real time. So if I weigh 100 kilos and I'm riding at 100 watts, then I'm producing 1 watt per kilo. So it's 100 divided by 1. So I get 1 watt per kilo. And then that's the calculation. And then all of these athletes will understand at what watt per kilo they can ride and have an idea of how long they can ride at what watt per kilo, what they can expect to do in different bandings. So we talked earlier about the Coggan traditional power training with power bands, and they'll have a good understanding of what they look like, and they will know how to train within those power zones. What's really interesting about watts per kilo is it isn't an absolute measure of performance. It makes a big difference on climbing roads. So roads where there's a lot of vertical ascent, that's when it really is super important. But right now, this is a power game. So watts per kilo is almost irrelevant. If you've got someone riding at 500 watts that weighs 150 kilos and someone riding at 250 watts that weighs 75 kilos, which is the same watt per kilo calculation, you're still going to see that big guy at 500 watts absolutely, breaking away, moving past it. It would be a complete and utter smash fest for that poor guy who's the lightweight climber. So it isn't an absolute measure of performance, but it's a good understanding to see how hard an athlete is working.
That's all
Maybe
about
a
trying
little
to get
bit more
those
than you were
numbers
hoping.
dialed in.
Sorry,
Yeah,
Brad,
that's
you were
right.
saying?
You never know. We got some riders in the Zoom room. I'm going to try and grab a word with our women's race winner, Jacqueline Godby, joining us here in our virtual press conference, we'll call it. Jacqueline, first of all, congratulations on the ride out there, recovering now, and it looks like you're cheering another rider on there with you.
Yes, yeah,
So tell me about the plan tonight. Did you expect to find yourself in this front group? Did you think that you'd have a chance at a win in Borrego Springs?
I was definitely looking to stay with the leaders. I knew it was a flat course. As a heavier rider, flat course really played to my strength in terms of pulling out and high power. So I was able to race the race I wanted to, and then it was really fun seeing those punches out of the turns, see strong riders like Christy Cranes who just amp up power and put some fun, exciting sprints in there.
Is this in line with a course that would be good for you in real life? Are you normally a flat power rider? Do you like to go uphill? What's your preference?
I am normally a triathlete. Triathlete. So, I do a lot of straight line riding. So far, at the beginning of this whole thing.
Did you and everybody else in the Zoom room?
All right, and then finally, looking forward to the rest of the racing coming up this weekend. What is certainly this gives you some confidence looking into the racing on Saturday and Sunday?
I think there's always going to be race nerves, but that's part of the fun. I'm going up against really some of the best women in the world, and that's just exciting. Like, I'm never really going to be calm, I'm never going to be, confident, but it's always exciting. So I'm going to carry that with me to Monday.
All right, congratulations on the ride. Looking forward to watching the triumph continue this weekend in the Echelon Racing League. That's Jacqueline Godby, your women's race winner. Congrats. All right, well, you heard some of the men trying to figure out how exactly this whole video game thing works. And I apologize for anything that may have come over the air. We have a Zoom room of all of our riders in there. We're going to figure out where anything like that came from and get to the bottom of that. All right, so back to racing out on course. Still all together here. Osborne, Blodgett, Dowd, and now seeing some new riders coming up to the front as we see some red numbers at it here with 31 kilometers to go.
Yeah, super quick first lap. 9:34, I think, which is quick by any standard. What did I miss? I had no audio for Godby, so selfishly, it'd be great to know what she said, just to understand if she enjoyed the race and how she felt it went.
Yeah, she was talking about this. It was right up her alley. She's a triathlete, so she likes the long, sustained efforts. It's going to be interesting to watch her climb later in the week, though, as we go to courses like the Stelvio. I think that's going to be a lot different here. So Jacqueline Godby has a lot on her plate coming up over the next couple days. But yeah, she said she was happy to get the win. Certainly comfortable in this Borrego course, but the climbing going to be a little different.
Thanks for thanks for satisfying my curiosity. I was just interested to know how it went. So I think we're back with the racing. With the chasing group, there's a gap for these guys. I believe this is a chasing group at least. I hope this isn't a breakaway. Looking at those numbers, I would be surprised if it was. Yes.
Yeah, I think the rest of the field just a little bit behind those guys. There you go. There's Jaden Yeager up at the front.
Okay, it's already a reduced group again. We're looking at probably half the group. Is it here, do you think, Brad, or maybe a bit more than that?
Yeah, I would say we probably lost a little more than half at this point. Trying to take a look at the start list, see how many riders we got on the line today.
This is interesting to watch. The male racing feels a bit more staccato, a bit more stick and sit. There's more ebb and flow. I think there's more propensity from the men, it would seem, in the event today to chase everything that goes away, and that's exacerbating the ebb and flow within the peloton. There is every time they start to drop a wheel, it looks like they're pushing super hard to join back up and not let anything go up the road. Looking at Worley, 6.4 watts per kilo, small gap, big chasing group. It's going to be tough, that one, as he gets caught and brought back into the group. We should watch for counters to see if anyone else has got the legs to go away now. As Mike Swart straight away, counters, but not looking good. Actually, is it Mike Swart or Mick Swart? I've probably got his name wrong. Let's have a look.
Mike Swart, I think.
Yes, Michael. That would be Mike for sure.
Yeah, and still no early animators out of this group yet. Pretty much everybody sticking together and trying to find that separation.
It's tough at this stage, I think, isn't it, to get that gap, to make that move, I think.
Sorry about that. We'll have our racing back here in just a sec, dealing with some technical issues with our rider cams out there. This is kind of like when the clouds overhead and the plane can't fly in the Tour de France, or the motorcycle's out of gas. You have to stop, can't get down off the mountain. That's like what we're dealing with right now, just a little technical.
Have we lost the feed? Yeah, it's the plane he wasn't able to get up. Okay, the plane that plots the TV coverage wasn't able to get up this morning, so yeah, we're just waiting for it to come back.
We're freaking out all over the place. I think Jaden Yeager put down too much power.
Yeah, something like that. I mean, the riders have still got a feed, so we've still got a race happening. It just seems that the stream's offline at the moment. We're going back to the pain caves, Brad, as well. I'm liking some of these. They look pretty good. Hey, we're back with the racing. Look at that. What happened? Anything? Mike Swart is a little bit up the road. He's got one more rider with him. Maybe these two can get away now. It's another rider bridged. So if they can keep riding through and off, we can maybe see a gap go. It'd be interesting to see what happens here.
Yeah, these three trying to get away, but they're going to need more than that, I think, if this is going to be successful. They'll probably need 4 to 6 riders somewhere in there. And we just haven't seen that organization yet. We just haven't seen that group able to get together. So We'll see if they can pull it off here a little later. Still 26.8 kilometers to go. A lot of racing yet on the line.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of racing, super flat, super fast, and not technical. So it's just it is an all-out power fest right now. Looking to have eased a little bit. Looking at the numbers down the left-hand side, doesn't look to be going as hard as it was initially. I don't think. Maybe the group is just settling in now. Now they've found their gap. And this is definitely the selection. As I say that, Ostenfeld absolutely triggers off the front, pins it full stick at 10 watts per kilo. So maybe I should reserve my judgment and wait to see what's actually happening.
Yeah, we saw Ostenfeld have a great race in the preseason test event, so he was certainly on our list of riders to watch heading into it tonight. And no surprise to see him up at the front. Let's say that.
Yeah, I was fortunate enough to take part in that test event. Can you remember who won, Brad?
Jaden Yeager, solo off the front.
That was it. Of course it was. We've already spoken about that. It was that big solo. What was it? It's like a 20k solo effort, wasn't it? And we just couldn't get organised behind to make the catch. Unbelievable.
Yeah, I don't know what was going on with you guys back there in the group, but Jaden Yeager was having a day of it up there by himself. I think it was just a matter of trying to figure out who was going to do the work to try to chase him down. But yeah, he ended up winning by 20 plus seconds, I think, after going away solo with something like 5-6 kilometers to go to the finish. Yeah,
he got out further than that. I was fortunate enough to race that as a bit of a cameo. We were just, I mean, I mentioned staccato racing or stick and sit earlier, and for anybody that doesn't know, that is, as it sounds, stick and sit. So you stick it, you go hard, and then you sit up. And there was a lot of that in that group. And plus, Jaden Yeager, I'm sure he had teammates in the group as well, and they were nobbling. They were coming through and sitting up, and it made the chase difficult. We didn't get organised. So, yeah, Jaden Yeager absolutely had a day of it. It was pretty impressive, though. He sat at some pretty fierce numbers for, like we said, the best part of the entire race. He got the gap with, only a couple of laps in on that tough Monaco course, and he was just gone. He was, and we left it too late as well as a group I mean, I got dropped, but the group left it too late. I was watching the feed as well. I was racing, and they left it too late to try and make the chase as well. I think if they'd have got organised a little bit sooner and stopped looking at each other, and maybe the one big team as well would have helped. But I think there was more Yeager's teammates than there was anybody else's. So I guess that explains what happened there.
Yeah, I was going to say I can't really fault you guys for not being able to chase, because I think more than 50% of the chasers were made up of Restart Racing riders, which are Jaden Yeager's teammates. So obviously couldn't expect them to do any work to bring him back. So there weren't a whole lot of riders remaining that weren't teammates of Yeager to do any work to bring him back. So. Yeah,
that's right. And at the time, there were no kits in the team kits weren't there, so we didn't know they were Yeager's teammates. So they would come through and then sit up and not do a turn. So obviously, we didn't know what was going on. Anyway, back to the actual race and not the test race. Stood all together, or at least that breakaway group together. Much higher average speed, maybe 4 or 5 kilometers an hour average speed than the women's event, which was fast in itself. Coming up to 15k racing now, 23k remaining, or 23.6k remaining. Yeah, we're just coming up on. I think this is the end of the second lap by the look of it. As we come through, these little S-bends before we hit the 200-meter sprint, which was instrumental in the women's event. With Tracy going early for that and looking pretty good. So it'd be nice to see another attack go here, and it does. These numbers just flashing up red at the front of the group every time. Project Echelon's very own Frank Cundiff looks to be in this breakaway, or this remaining front group. Yeager's still there, Dubac, Revel, Mike Swart, who's been pretty combative. who's had a good event so far. Cooper, Marshall, Griffin. It's a big group, still a big group, and there's still some big names in there. Haven't seen my pick, so maybe got struggled at the start when it went off so hard and wasn't able to stay in the group. We're back to the pain cave shots again. Patrick Worley, Jaden Yeager, and then somebody's going to have to tell me who the Evoc rider is there. Oh, Patrick Whale, that came up. If I was watching the screen, I'd have seen it on the graphic. Looking quite composed, I would say, really. It's a bit of cheek blowing there, but looking pretty good.
Yeah, Wall has looked really comfortable. I've been watching him as he was launching those attacks on the front, sitting up there. Really isn't showing a lot of physical pain on the Zoom cam, so I'm not sure if that's accurate. Obviously, you always feel different than you look, but we're keeping an eye on Wall, who's been an early aggressor here.
Yeah, just looking at the teams that are sorry, Brad, say that again.
I just watched Patrick Wall reach into his jersey and grab what I think was a gel. So I was just watching him trying to stay up here and grab some caffeine and calories. Go ahead.
No, I was just looking at the teams that we've got represented in the group now. It doesn't seem to be too much of anybody. Not particularly. Surprised to see just the one Canyon jersey there. We've got a couple of Echelon guys, a couple of USAC kits. There's a couple of Evoc guys, but there's no one big team in there, is there, right now?
Yeah, really no one dominating this front group, which is interesting, especially considering the way that Restart and Evoc Bike, I think, dominated the preseason test event. But it seems like the other teams kind of learned their lesson and realized that they couldn't let those guys take over and take control here. Absolutely.
I'm just doing a quick search on my notes. The most prevalent kit, I think, is probably the green kit. Now, I've made a mistake of writing the green kit in my notes as Evoc, but I know that's not the case. So this green kit that's just moving up the right-hand side now. Who's that, Brad?
That's going to be the Seasucker Gutenplan coaching team. It's a team run by a bike racer here in the U.S. named David Gutenplan. They have a domestic road team, and then they also built an esports racing team. So it's that neon yellow jersey there right in the middle. You see two of them going right up the middle. And then this is an Evoc bike jersey of Neil Ostenfeld in the white. You're going to see these a lot. I think Evoc bike presented by Insured probably has one of the cooler kits out here. So Ostenfeld flying the colors, the white and sort of blue of Evoc bike.
So isn't there a rule about cyclists wearing white jerseys?
I think it's white shorts that you really have to watch out for, but we do give them a pass in virtual racing, I guess, for white jerseys.
Well, yeah, of course. I'm just poking fun. Oh, it's a big attack.
Please, whatever you do not write that feature into RGT. I don't want to see a wet white clothing feature at all on any of these riders.
We should just ban all white jerseys and shorts, or hey, this looks promising. There's a big reaction in the field behind.
This is what we were talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. Jaeger looking strong. Looks like it's going to get caught, but that was pretty close there to those guys getting that gap and actually getting away. I'm just looking down the road, Brad, as well at this point. That really strung the field out, that attack. Really strung the field out. The riders are spread over 50 or so meters, I think, as a big gap. And then as a counter straight away from Griffin and Osborne as well.
Yeah, kind of using that corner to their advantage once again. You see the separation coming out of the corner as Jaden Yeager drops back into the group. At 82 kilometers, Jaden Yeager, one of the heaviest riders in this race. I think 86K is the heaviest rider out there, but he can sure turn it into power, that's for sure. An average power of 399 watts during his preseason race. He was just under 5 watts per kilo as his average for Jaden Yeager. So some impressive numbers coming from Yeager.
Yeah, that goes back to the conversation we had about the watts per kilo earlier on. Big guy, but big power. You divide that power by his weight, and it's less impressive as a watts per kilo factor. So on the Stelvio, you wouldn't expect him to be up at the front. You'd expect the lightweight super climbers to be up there. Yeah, so 400 watts for the preseason race as an average power is phenomenal.
Yeah, we've seen some really incredible numbers from some really surprising riders in over the winter. A lot of riders have really embraced this and sort of taken their fitness to a place that they maybe had never been before or didn't know that they could go. I think Jaden Yeager is one of them for sure. Yeager is a structural engineer by day. He builds bridges and large pieces of infrastructure around the country. He reads the manual on steel for fun when he's bored, and then also likes to race his bike occasionally.
Yeah, I think we had some audio coming in from somewhere there. Brad, was that you, or are we?
I think somebody is having a party in the Zoom room right now. We're trying to get that taken care of.
We didn't get invited. It'd have been nice if they'd have invited us as well. Yeah, but those numbers for Jaden Yeager, and yeah, very, very impressive. Superb athlete.
Well, 17.6 kilometers to go. If you would have asked me 3 hours ago if I thought these races were going to stay together, I would have said no way. The way that the preseason races went, there was just so much separation in these races early on. But I have been honestly shocked how close these races have stayed together and how long they stayed together as well. Women's race went all the way to the line with a group.
Yeah, I think it, like we spoke about it for the women's race. It is super flat. It's hard to get the gap when it does go as flat as this.
Okay, back up.
I'm encouraged to see Jaden Yeager still in the group and still the riders that have had fun on the platform before now. This is a good gap. That's a good gap for Griffin. He's 30-40 meters up the road, so maybe we can we'll see how this goes. And looking at the power numbers behind him, there's not a great emphasis to chase him. It might be nice for them to leave him out there and maybe calm the peloton down slightly, keep him in arm's reach, and go from there. But just don't give him too much rope, because we saw what Jaden Yeager could do in the warm-up event, and I'd be interested to see if anybody else could do that as well.
I'm trying to watch Griffin's power zone here. You see him sitting right in the orange, which in theory would be your VO2 max. Now, you can't stay here all day. Nobody can ride in orange and red all day. And Griffin looks like starting to fade a little bit here as, that orange just wasn't enough to stay away off the front. He would have had to keep it in the red zone, and that's just impossible.
Yeah, sure. It was interesting to see the group's response to that, though, because they almost let him go. I think maybe one or two riders decided they didn't want him up the road. So, but it was interesting. He nearly got the guy. He was nearly allowed to get away and be the breakaway rider, as I'm sure we all saw. I was hoping that was going to go, actually. Nevertheless, it doesn't always go with a breakaway.
Well, it looks like they're going to try again with Brazal here from the Support Clean Sport Gutenplan Coaching Seasucker team. The old 1-2.
Definitely the wrong time to attack.
Jerseys.
Yeah, definitely the wrong time to attack then for Brazil through those corners. This is a nice, tidy group of 4. There's some chasing in the back there. Yeah, they're going to get caught. But attacking through those corners with the simulated braking would have been wasted watts. So that would have been matches burnt for very little outcome, really. With the way the simulated braking works, that you can stick all the power in you want, but if your brakes are on, you're just going to slow down for that corner, which is a shame, really. Maybe a counter-attack 30 seconds later maybe would have been paid more dividends. Austin fell again on the front, though.
Yeah, the story here may be more what's happening at the back than what's happening at the front, because these guys look like they're just kind of sitting up here and kind of feeling out who the other strong riders in this group are.
Yeah, we are reducing again, aren't we? In numbers, there is some attrition as there's a couple of riders getting dropped off the back. Every other corner, I think we're losing maybe one or two. So the group is getting smaller, and the smaller the group, obviously, the more chance there is of a breakaway or a breakaway solo rider getting away. It is interesting because, I mean, to use an expression that I've heard years ago, they'll chase their own shadows. There is no getting away. They are chasing their own shadows. You know, there's no one prepared to give an inch as a rider goes up the road.
Watching Velez up at the front here as well. Warner, some new names. And the German, Schaub, up there.
I don't know if it's getting late or I'm hearing things.
I'm getting word from our audio team that they are chasing down the source of these mystery kids.
It adds to the mystique. So I'm going to do my little recap. We are 25k in, 13k gone. A selection was made earlier in this event than it was in the women's event, and we're seeing the same thing. We're just seeing a few riders get popped here and there. Big attacks going off the front, like now with Jaden Yeager, and just not able to hold those gaps. I mean, this will be, if it goes over 40 meters, the furthest we've ever had anyone go out. Jaden Yeager, for Restart Racing, that's a 40 meter gap. But look at the power numbers behind everyone turning red.
This is exactly what you didn't want to happen. No, Jaden Yeager going away solo is pretty much the most dangerous thing that you can have if you're trying to win this race here. So you see Neil Ostenfeld getting out of the saddle. He realizes that Yeager is gone. He doesn't want to make the same mistake that he made in the test event. So he's waiting here. He's looking for some help as Jaden Yeager tries to go away solo, and they're going to bring him back this time. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me.
Absolutely. Now would be the time to counter, though. That strung the group out. There'll be some fatigued legs for the moment. It would be the time that you'd be looking to go as hard as Yeager did, because I don't think they can keep chasing down attacks like that. It's a big ask for people to keep going after somebody like Yeager all the time.
Yeah, and I guess the other question is, how many of those efforts can Yeager himself make? How many more of those does he have left in the tank, and will he have one left in the closing kilometers of this? But I like that. You got to respect the effort for Jaden Yeager here. An attack from 13 kilometers out, it takes some guts to try a move like that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a rider that knows his form. He knows he's feeling good. You know, I think it's perhaps showing your cards a little bit early going with 13k to go, but good stuff. If you can make it stick, absolutely fantastic.
Jaeger is the reigning Masters National Time Trial champion here in the United States. Won in 2019 in the 35 to 39-year-old age category. So a time trial Masters National champion, and 13 kilometers is really right in his wheelhouse. I do a couple races every year up in his area. He's from Wisconsin. We have a couple series here in the United States called the Tour of America's Dairyland in Wisconsin and the Intelligentsia Cup in Chicago, just south of Wisconsin, where I watched Jaeger over the summer win, I think, 4, maybe 5 races solo away off the front. It's just the way that this guy likes to race. It's the way that he likes to win. Certainly doesn't like riding in a group, and definitely doesn't want it to come down to a sprint.
Looking forward to our events tomorrow and Sunday. I think this is Jaeger's time to shine with the Paterberg being so punchy and appealing to a completely different muscle fibre. Short twitch, big cracks, big hits up the road, and then the Stelvio pass with essentially just an absolute watts per kilo fest. I think this is the one for Jaeger for sure today.
Yeah, I have a feeling the 80-kilo rider may not be doing so well when the Stelvio starts to go uphill. That will definitely favor the smaller, lighter riders, but you never know. Jaeger may be putting in some off-season climb training. See if he gets any better on the Stelvio. And then, of course, the Paterberg as well. That might be a little better for a guy like Jaeger. A little shorter effort for the Paterberg climb, where he could maybe try and surge away, get the gap there, and then stay away. I like him a lot better on the Paterberg than I would on the Stelvio.
I would love to see him go well on the Paterberg. That would be really interesting. That would mean he was because it's two different physiological systems, isn't it? You've got the fast twitch and the slow twitch muscle fibers. A slow twitch of the aerobic machine or the endurance athlete, and then you've got the fast twitch of the sprinters. And the way the sprinters attack the Paterberg every lap, if Jaeger's still there after the 3rd or 4th attempt, then yeah, that would be incredible to see. Really, really good.
This might be a little bit of a stretch, but Jaeger reminds me a lot of Peter Sagan. The way that he rides and his riding style is that sort of not a great sprinter, but a good sprinter. Not a great long-range attack rider, but a good long-range attack rider. He can kind of do it all. I'm thinking about Peter Sagan's world's winning move when he attacked on the big climb in Richmond, Virginia, when we had the races, the World Championships here in the U.S. An attack like that would be something that Jaeger could absolutely pull off on the Paterberg this weekend. So we'll be keeping an eye on him. Meanwhile, Ostenfeld back up at the front. Neil is another rider who's been super aggressive for the Evog bike team. That's a name that you're going to see up at the front quite a bit. He's an aggressive rider. He's a strong rider. I think ended up 3rd place in the preseason test event here. So we haven't been saying Ostenfeld's name as much as Jaden Jaeger, but I do think he is a threat for a podium tonight.
Yeah, he has been super active. Maybe 3 or 4 big moves have come from Ostenfeld. Not got the gap, and he doesn't seem to have the kick that Jaeger had to create that much needed gap to sit down and start making the most of the aerobic engine. But certainly active and pressing hard. Another athlete I've started to see a little bit more of, another rider I've started to see a bit more of, is Velez for Canyon esports team. Seems to have been a little bit more active in the last couple of kilometers. Had been quiet up until now, just sat in the wheels. So maybe planning something for the Canyon team. But it's all looking a little bit subdued at the moment. Everyone looks to be taking a breather.
Yeah, I'm actually surprised we haven't seen more of those Canyon esports jerseys that you were talking about up at the front. The purple jerseys, usually one of the more dominant esports teams, although some new names, new faces. I think they're still kind of getting a feel for racing here on RGT and racing against some of the riders in this group. So, but you're right, pretty surprising still altogether here. 8.1 kilometers to go. I want to say if it hasn't gone yet, it's not going to go. So a part of me is starting to think that maybe this one is just going to stay together until they make it to the line, just like the women's race.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think unless yeah, I mean we're on the last lap. I don't see anybody really having the legs now to get that gap unless it's Jaeger. Looking actually particularly comfortable on the Zoom
bored.
camera.
Doesn't he? He looks like he's got somewhere else to be.
Yeah, a couple hundred meters up the road, I think. I guess for Jaeger, after the success he's had on the platform, it might be frustrating that he can't get away. That the group does have enough firepower to bring him back when he goes. It's flat. He can't make the most of a short climb and get away, and he's not got the teammates either to help. Another attack from Schaub.
This happens in real life too. Oh yeah, the German.
Yeah. Did you happen to make a note of
something started?
Absolutely. Did you happen to make a note of the women's time?
I do not have a winning women's time. Let me see if I can chase that down for you. I want to say something like 52, but that's just a number popping into my head. Don't quote me on that.
I won't hold you to that. I was just wondering what the difference would be between the two events. I mean, as they've done equidistances. These guys look like they've been absolutely murdering it from the start. This select group. There's only been a few occasions where you've looked at the numbers and it hasn't been, all out by somebody on the front or chasing or trying to get away or trying to get a move off or it seems to be a really strong event.
Yeah, this might be one of the calmest parts of the men's race that we've had all night so far as we look at this group sitting on the front. Couple yellow zones, but for the most part, riders in the green and blue zone, so that tells us that they're taking it relatively easy out there. That almost definitely means that they are waiting to ramp this up. It's 6K to go. There's no reason to be riding in these blue and green zones unless you're waiting. You're winding up for an attack, so I think that's sort of the general place that we are right now in this group, where everybody's just waiting for that first big one. It might be Jaden Yeager, it might be someone else, but an attack is coming out of this group with 5.8K to go.
You've got to be a brave man, haven't you, to go at this point, Brad?
They say fortune favors the bold, but I think bonking also favors the bold often if fortune doesn't shine your way. So it's tough to get that timing right. It really is. And for an attack like this, it's going to be all or nothing. If you try and go for that winning move, you try and make that winning attack, you're either going to win the race or die trying. It really, there's no middle ground in a scenario like that. So you either have to throw everything you have at it, put every watt you have into the bike, or you play the waiting game. You sit in, you wait until someone else launches the attack, and that's what we're seeing right now.
Yeah, absolutely. It's good to see the continuity in Jaeger being part of this. Swart again. So early on in the race, Mike Swart was particularly animated, and these are the danger zones. These are where you can get away. 5K to go. There is a possibility riders start to move up to the front to chase him down now, but these are danger zones. 5 kilometers, they're achievable if you can hold a good number. It's entirely possible. Look at them stringing out behind, Brad.
Yeah, Swart going deep into the red here as Ravel, Sostwick try to catch on, and look at Swart. That's him right there on the right-hand side of your screen going deep in the pain cave here as he launches the solo effort off the front. I love watching the effort from these guys on the Zoom cameras as Mike Swart goes all in on this late race attack.
Looking good. Looking good. Jaeger stood up there. Here we go. Just watched him now on his.
Going to go right over the top of this one.
Yeah, absolutely. We just saw him stand up there when we were looking at the Zoom camera. Just stood up on the pedals, had a little dig. It looks like he's sitting up again. He's going to get caught. Maybe he's changed his mind, but yeah. Talk me through these jerseys, Brad. Which one do I want? These t-shirts.
Well, we talked about the Support Clean Sport Gutenplan coaching team. You see the Evoc bike jersey up there on the front. I think that might be one of my favorite jerseys out there, the white jersey with black shorts. I know we talked about the danger of white cycling gear, but I do like the style of the Evoc bike team, so that might be my t-shirt. Although Project Echelon just recruited a fashion designer to do their new kits, so they've got some new kits and gear on the way. Well, they're working with a guy who I'm sure you saw those team kits reimagined by high-end designers. They linked up with that designer and we're able to get some kits redesigned for Project Echelon, so I'm sure that's going to be cool.
Brilliant. I will look forward to those. I'm not going to make a pick. I think we should go back to the racing, and it's probably a poorly timed distraction on my part because we're just coming in to the closing sections of the men's inaugural Project Echelon Pro Series. 3.5 kilometers to go, 45 minutes of racing and 35 kilometers in. It's getting good, Brad.
Yeah, this is the selection. It has been made. If you're not in this group of 16 riders, you got no shot of winning in Borrego Springs today for the opening day of the Echelon Racing League. Saw a couple attacks. Jaden Yeager on his second attack of the day, but still nothing. Here goes Brazil now for the Support Clean Sport Gutenplan Coaching Seasucker team in the neon green kits. Easy to see, both in real life and on RGT here.
It's a great looking kit, that. Just talking us through what's left of this course, Brad. We've got this straight, about another probably kilometre to go down here, and then we've got a left, a right, and then a left. Quite sweeping bends and a 200-metre kick to the finish. As with the women's, I think we'll expect to see a race to that corner, as with Tracy, and then we'll see a race to the line, and hopefully, oh, Yeager's off the back here, look.
Yeah, maybe caught off guard a little bit here. Certainly rare to see Yeager OTB, and it's because Payne Griffin attacking up on the front for the Support Clean Sport Gutenplan coaching team. And Yeager now starting to look like he might be struggling a little bit on the right-hand side of your screen. Remember, earlier it looked like he was out for a Sunday cruise, but it's nice to know that he is mortal after all.
It turns out he is human. Right, turns out he's human.
Makes me feel a little bit better about my rides on RGT.
Absolutely.
All right, inside the final 2 kilometers as some new names coming forward. There's Oliver Dowd, the Canadian. Frank Cundiff making an appearance as well for the Project Echelon Racing team. You see the sort of blue-green jerseys with the black sleeve. That's the Project Echelon kit. Look at these riders all lined up. They're getting down to it with 1.7K to go. This is going to be another good one at the end of the Echelon Racing League. Look at Ostenfeld coasting.
Absolutely.
Griffin going to try.
There's no power in numbers for anybody. There's no lead out trains going away. There's not much to happen. I think that's Yeager we can see in the distance, Brad. I think he's gone. I think he was dropped.
Yeah, we'll see if we can get a camera on Jaden Yeager, who we think is now OTB after a couple big attacks throughout the day today. Jaden Yeager, the pre-race favorite, looking like he might have gone a little too deep and finds himself off the back of this group. Meanwhile, 1.1 kilometers to go as they come up to the red flag. There's Yeager trying to find his way back in.
We're down in the last 1,000 meters now, Brad. So remember, we've got that race for the first corner
here.
Absolutely, yeah, waiting game. Nobody wants to take it up just yet. As Ostenfeld, nope, nobody's taking it up yet. 600 meters to go and nobody.
Get close to the front and then let off. Here goes Evoc Bike. They're going to give it a go. Seasucker Gutenplan coaching in the neon kits going, and then that might have been a Saris Pros Closet jersey. It's Warner going away off the front here.
This is a good move for Warner. This is a good move for Warner. If he keeps this up, like, you know, there's a good chance.
Oh, man. Hayden Warner with the Above and Beyond Cancer presented by Bike World team. Gets caught at 115 meters to the line. Here's Conduit surging to the front. That's going to be a photo finish on the line. And I think it might have been this rider in the USA cycling kit. Could have been Cooper there. Thomas, they're saying, into second. And then Wall in third. These are unofficial results on your screen. We got to get those sorted out in RGT here. But looked like Valet was up there as well. And I think that was Cooper getting the win today.
Yeah, good sprint finish from a reduced bunch, as we expected. Seeing the riders on the line there looking good in their kits, but yeah, absolutely brilliant race again. Turned into a war of attrition. No one managed to get the gap despite some valiant efforts there from Jaden Yeager. But yeah, looked really good. Evoque bike. Is that Cooper Evoque bike? Is he?
Not sure who Cooper riding for, but there must be something to the Godby Pain Cave, because that is the second victory to come out of that Pain Cave tonight. We saw Jacqueline Godby winning earlier in the day, and I can't remember if it was her fiance or husband. Cooper, right next to her, gets the win in the men's race.
Wow, amazing. Somebody looks pleased with themselves. That's absolutely fantastic. From the same pain cave. The two winners came from the same pain cave, Brad. That's there's something to be said for that, I'm sure.
Yeah, let's see if we can chat with Cooper right now. I think he might be able to hear me on Zoom. Give him a chance to cool down and get cleaned up here. I'll let you get appropriate for television before we chat here, but what is it about your basement? There must be something special in the Cooper Godby basement down there. Hey, can you hear us? All right, so tell me about, first of all, tell me about your basement. What is down there, and how do I get it? Because I want some of that. Hey, so it looks like you guys have really embraced the virtual racing. It looks like you went pretty deep with the Pain Cave here. Were you guys virtual racers before the pandemic?
Oh, the pandemic is really what started all of this. We were both triathletes by inclination, and we both work in the medical field in Chicago. So when the pandemic hit, we knew it's hard to get outside and be safe in a big city. So we set up the Pain Cave, we got some kickers, and we started getting on these virtual cycling platforms and banging out some watts.
How about racing on the bike? Had you guys raced outside of triathlon, bike alone before?
Yes, sir. We've done a few some crit racing in the Chicago area. There's some wonderful crits in Lincoln Park and down near the Chicago area. So that's the bike experience we have.
Yeah, very good criterium racing scene up there in Chicago. I know you guys have the Intelligentsia Cup every year. It's one of my favorite events to go visit every year and commentate on some of the best crit racing in America. It really is a sort of a special type of racing. Although e-racing making headwinds here. We might have a new American gem on our hands here.
I don't know if my fiance Jackie was too embarrassed to share this, but she's going to be with Team USA in the first UCI International e-racing championship this December. So,
tell me about how things changed for Jackie after she made it on to the world's esports selection team. I imagine the training becomes a lot more serious after that.
Yeah, we're both hobbyists, you know. We just enjoy putting ourselves through some pain here in the front room. But Jackie has definitely taken it to another level since she made the national team. She's been religiously getting in her two-a-days and following with our fantastic coach, Chris Navin, who's coached both of us for many years here in Chicago. And he was in this race, actually. He's my teammate. He's the other guy in the same jersey. He's our longtime coach. So shout out to Chris.
tell me more about
Yeah, tell me more about your team. Tell me about your squad racing tonight.
So we're Team Scary Fast. We're out of Chicago here. Chris Navin is our fearless leader, and he's coached us through triathlon. He's coached us through running. He's coached us through cycling, and he's right there cycling with us. So it's a great squad. Everybody who's been in the team over all the years with Tri Monster and then with Scary Fast has been awesome support. The Chicago area team is super strong.
RGT commercial.
Right on, Chris Navin.
Right on, Chris Navin turning in some great rides from the team. Congratulations to you. Congratulations to Jackie Godby. 2 wins from the same address tonight in the Echelon Racing League. As we're going to take a short break. When we come back, we'll try and get our riders in a podium and chat with more riders from the Echelon Racing League right after this. The 2020 Echelon Racing League is brought to you by Biomoto, by Hyper Ice. Move better with Hyper Ice and use code Project Echelon 20 for 20% off all Normatec products, and by Nations.
And then 2 kilos to go, he got kicked off the back, and then I was like,
More of the classic art in Borrego Springs. James, you were asking earlier about what Borrego Springs is like. You saw the giant metal art there. That gives you a pretty good idea. There's 130 of those sculptures scattered around the desert outside of Borrego Springs, so you can go try and visit all of them when you go visit.
It's on my places to visit list anyway. As we said earlier on, the concept of coming back maybe one day as an age group endurance athlete sounds. I mean, I make it sound like I'm coming back from a professional career, and I'm not. But anyway, the concept of doing the World Time Trials sounds like a good laugh. And I've got a few friends that have done it and done RAM, and it's all connected. And it looks worth a visit for sure. Absolutely.
You got to be careful, though. It gets hot out there. That's the issue. You got to go at the right time of the year or do some heat training beforehand, because it's a scorcher out there.
Maybe training indoors is a good way to heat train.
There you go. I don't know. I know a lot of riders try and keep themselves cool with the fans, but I don't know if anyone has any advanced climate control techniques, if anyone's doing anything other than fans. I'm sure you've seen some pretty serious pain cave setups from RGT participants.
I've seen everything from packs of ice strapped to the back of a fan to recreate your own air conditioning unit, all the way through to fully air conditioned home built studios with a specific intention to ride and race a bike online there. We have lots of people that enjoy that kind of. But we spoke about it earlier on, that obsession with creating your own little space and having some fun in there, and it's good. Yeah, we see all sorts.
Yeah, and we're seeing a lot more riders start to build their pain caves out to more and more and more. We're seeing, and more equipment coming as well. We're really seeing some pretty incredible equipment on the other end coming out to ride on these platforms.
Yeah, absolutely. There's some big advancements in hardware. Well, we've just done the first wired trainer, which ensures that the signal can't be hacked and keeps everything together. Elite have just brought out a new trainer that's really high end. As Watt Bike have just brought out the new Atom. There's some really good products out there. You've got new clothing like Primal. There's a new brand that does only indoor clothing called Ido. You've got the No Pins guys now who have ice packs that you can put in the back of your in your jerseys to keep you cool. You've got the Elite steering product, which is commercially linked to be available on Zwift only, but I think it's only a matter of time before something's made available for other platforms. And we mentioned that earlier on in the commentary as well about what we could do with braking and steering. And there's still other things that we have yet to really talk about in detail as an industry or as a group of athletes, or however you want to look at that would really change the game. Things like wearables that sense your position on the bike, and if you lean forwards, then your avatar leans forwards, and you get your CDA advantage and your aerodynamic benefit of actually being leant forwards. Because you saw today with, I think it was. Let me just check my notes to see who it was. Tracy and Godby, in completely different positions. One was, I think, on the drops as if they were actually in a triathlon, and Godby was so upright. So, in reality, one would be seeking an additional aerodynamic benefit. So there's lots of things that technology could do for this. Huge possibilities. It's almost endless.
Well, racing continuing tomorrow here in the Echelon Racing League. We still have the Stelvio and the Paterberg to conquer this weekend. A couple more real roads courses here on RGT as the course will head uphill. One thing's for sure, it's going to be very different than the racing that we saw today on the relatively flat Borrego Springs day. The next 2 days of Echelon Racing here, very, very different, Neil. It's all about climbing, and that really changes things on the RGT platform.
Yeah, I think we're looking at.
So here's a look at.
Sorry, Brad.
Go ahead. Just looking at the course for tomorrow. This is the big climb, the Stelvio on the way up. You can see the Velo Viewer view of this one. It is a steep one heading up the Stelvio tomorrow with a elevation gain of just over 4,000 feet for the Americans here. So it is no joke of a climb, and they're going to feel every single meter of that as we continue the racing here this weekend in the Echelon Racing League. So, James, that's going to do it for us tonight. I want to say thank you for hanging with us tonight. I know it is super late where you are, so we're going to let you go and let you get to bed because we got more racing this weekend, so I want to make sure you're good and rested up for the rest of the commentary here. James Vickers with RGT, thanks so much for being with us, and thanks for a fun time tonight.
Thanks for having me, Brad. I apologise. I'm sure my commentary skills are a bit ropey, but I've really enjoyed being part of it, and I look forward to riding with everybody tomorrow. Thank you.
All right, the Echelon Racing League will continue throughout the weekend, again with more racing tomorrow and then again on Sunday. Check out all the info at echelonracingleague.org and find the schedule there. We'll see you tomorrow.